I make a point of only reviewing things I want to promote and plug and spread around because I think they're worth it. I don't see any point in reviewing bad stuff. I will never review Frank Miller's Holy Terror, for example, because everybody knows about the one already. People only look up reviews of it to see people slate how bad it is, and how awful and offensive and shite it is, and how no one should ever pay money for it and give money to Frank Miller. So when I say that Batgirl number 37 was controversial, I want to make a point here that I still think the Batgirl series is awesome. I still love it. I will still continue to buy it. And I think that this is worth discussing and bringing a conversation to. As do the creative team, which is fantastic. The reactions they've done to this have been brilliant. There's been so many people who do a massive controversial mistake and try to sweep it under the rug or pretend it never happened. But this is not that. Ding! As I said in my review for Batgirl number 35, each issue of the post-35 series by Brendan Fletcher and Babs Tarr and Cameron Stewart focuses on the nature of celebrity in its villains and what people will do to become famous and the questioning of what's the point of even becoming that through modern technology and modern media. The controversy in number 37 comes from the issue's villain. Each issue has its own villain to work out. Daggertype, who is a artist, very out there, somewhat performance-y, somewhat photography-based, who is stealing Batgirl's image. Spoiler alert, at first it appears to be trying to discredit her, and then it's revealed that Daggertype is trying to become her. As the super glitzy cover will show you, Daggertype's version of Batgirl is very superstar, it's glamour, it's kind of drag, honestly, and it makes for amazing cosplay. This was a beautiful idea for cosplaying purposes. Daggertype's different Batgirls are divas. Complete spoilers ahead. The controversial scene is very specifically on one page. Okay, I have a cat now. Yep, that's the thing. Hey, Eddie. If you don't like controversies, just think of this cat, who gets in the way of everything but is so camera shy. Do you have a face you want to show people? This is Eddie. He is old and very grumpy. Where Batgirl's confronting the fake Batgirl has been running around and trying to damage her rep through social media posts, aggressive, dangerous actions. In this scene, she manages to grab the cowl off the fake Batgirl and it's revealed to be Daggertype, this anonymous artist who's been far away from events but submitting photographs of Batgirl diva'd up. Tense point number 1, when Batgirl says, "Daggertype, but you're..." and before Daggertype can cut off what may be saying a man, says, "A genius? Yes, I know," and shoots her. After thinking they've killed Batgirl, I'm going to use the pronoun they from now. From this point, I'm going to use the pronoun they when referring to Daggertype, because I do not know if they have a specified gender identity, male or female or otherwise, because it's not a thing that's discussed. The minutiae of that isn't gone into. After Daggertype believes that they've killed Batgirl, they create an unveiling exposition, an unmasking, where they say they will reveal everything about Batgirl, and they come onto the stage and declare that they are Batgirl, and everybody laughs, and everybody does not believe it at all, and thinks it's some kind of marketing stunt, and then Daggertype goes into the branding of Batgirl, and it just falls apart. And stressed and enraged and covered in booze from a bottle somebody threw at them, Daggertype pulls out a gun and starts firing wildly into the crowd. The problem was that Daggertype is potentially trans, or potentially a drag queen, or potentially queer in some kind of way, non-binary in some kind of way, and also a psychopath, and an unsympathetic, kind of one-dimensional psychopath. Now, I'm not saying that as a bad critique towards the writing crew, because the whole point in each of the issues of Batgirl so far is that the enemies, the villains, have only recently become these villains, and they appear to have been manipulated by someone else massively, someone with a lot of funds, someone who can make things happen, and entices people with the idea of celebrity and fortune and glory. And so they've been pushed into it. And so the idea of Daggertype being one-dimensional actually makes sense in that regard, because they haven't built this up over a very long period of time. This is not an excuse or a justification for what happened with Daggertype. It is an attempted understanding of why. And that's the thing. What happened was definitely wrong. And it doesn't feel necessarily like that to everybody, partly because in isolation it seems like another one-dimensional character, but when you take it into the grander scheme of things and the very, very few non-binary and queer characters that there are in comics, especially in Marvel and DC mainstream published comics, they are largely villains, so largely, and all the rest seem to be very, very minor characters, and they are so often one-dimensional, psychopathic, and their being queer is usually blamed as some kind of issue that caused them to go nuts. And this goes back to like ye olde timesy of comics, when the writing quality was very different. Certain things were genuinely illegal to write about, and yeah, it's a long-running issue. And for a lot of people, it's weird that this has happened now, when trans issues are so much at the forefront of media at the moment, and we really shouldn't have to be dealing with this. And so it's not that it happened, it's that it happened now, when people can so much more talk about it and expect better and describe how they are disappointed in something. Which they have a full right to be, definitely. Personally, I felt that the Dagger-type psychotic breakdown and random moment of gun-wieldingness was really random and kind of lazy. Mostly because the rest of the comic, the first half of the comic, the majority of it even, was a really good build-up to a mystery. If this had been actually 2 issues instead of just 1, and the whole first one is who is Dagger-type and how does that tie into the fake Batgirl, and the second one was the reveal, there could have been a bit more time to discuss why Dagger-type was doing what they were doing, because normally that's what's happened with the other two issues, is that I would grab them, but there's a cat in my lap, and now Hammer of Mjolnir, I can't move. But with the other 2 villains, they've been unmasked, and then there was a bit of a hint as to what's coming next. The bigger villain, the puppeteering, what's going on. With this one, not so much, because it happened right at the end. There wasn't much time, and Barbara, in a really good moment, actually, had to do it completely without her costume and mask, and just civilian-style beat Dagger-type. Like I say, this is a really good comic series, but this was a moment of misjudgment and oversight. There's been some brilliant reactions from the creative team and from news outlets who've kept cool heads and treated the situation with the importance that it deserves, to discuss it properly and fully, and that is so good to see, because so often this explodes into controversy and then people start yelling at each other and then nobody even knows quite where it's going, and then people make terrible mistakes, and it's so good to see that not happening here. This is not a penny arcade controversy. This is intelligent people doing their job properly, and that's fantastic. Cameron Stewart has apologised over Twitter and has said, quote, "It really pained us to stay silent for so long, but we felt we needed to listen for a bit instead of talking." That is good. That is fantastic. That does not happen with so many publishers and developers and creatives who just immediately snap onto the, well, bury it under the rug, bury it, we'll sorry it ever happened, kill this series, die. And this didn't happen here, which is brilliant. Cameron Stewart, Brendan Fletcher and Babs Tarr have issued a statement collectively saying we could go on all day about our intentions for the issue and the character Dagger-type and what our goals were and weren't, kind of like I just did, but I wanted to try and give it context. But our intentions do not invalidate the legitimate reactions that some have had to this story. Those reactions are honest and heartfelt and exist regardless of our creative intentions, and we do not wish to dismiss them. Applause. I love that this has been treated so well. Instead, we want to acknowledge the hurt and offence we have caused and express our sincerest apologies. There is a really good full article on the Mary Sue entitled "Why the Batgirl 37 Controversy is the Conversation We Need Right Now," and another really good one on comicsalliance.com, which is a great website, called "On Imperfect Allies and Why Batgirl Still Deserves Our Support." In it, they say a brilliant piece, which is, "I wouldn't be writing this piece right now if not for that apology. It was an absolute requirement before moving forwards. The authors have demonstrated an understanding that the story caused real harm. They apologised without reservation, they thanked their critics for calling them out, and they promised to do better. This was a good faith apology and showed that Batgirl 37 was a product of ignorance, not malice." kudos to you, Andrew Wheeler, for writing that. That is a fantastic piece of phrasing, and I've summed up this whole video in one paragraph. Just, yes, yes! I adore this new Batgirl. Bear in mind, I don't go into any Marvel or DC property based entirely upon who the characters are. Even the Young Avengers, I waited to hear anything about before going back to it. I know! I love the Young Avengers! But I waited till I heard anything before going back to it because I know that when things change hands, you can go from Greg Rucka to not Greg Rucka. And considering that Batgirl's old writer was Gail Simone, this could have been like a massive step backwards and a step down. You know what? I think in the right hands, I'm honestly hoping they don't drop Daggertype as a character and they actually develop them more. Who knows what will happen to them as they go to prison and get away from this influence, this person who was giving them orders. If Barbara talks to them and interviews them and tries to get some answers, what they will find from this person, and what new character representation could be included, and what mistakes could be rectified with the proper care and approach. Like what you're watching and want to see more? Subscribe for a new video every week. This is a goal I'm trying to do in the new year, and it's going pretty well so far. Or, if you want to see even more than that, help support me on Patreon. Link here if it allows me, there if it doesn't. I'm still very new to this. If I get over $10 pledged, then I will be doing 2 videos a week instead of just 1. So I have my targets pretty low, so it could well happen. So that's there if you have the money, if you want to support. If not, comments, likes, shares, anything that shows actual interaction and that this is good. Criticism is also good, but I'm on Patreon as well. If you have even $1 to spare. Thank you.